Today I have a special guest in the studio, co-founder of the American Communist Party and a controversial commentator, Jackson Hinkle, who's now living in exile in Russia because of his political beliefs. The questions I'll put to Jackson today are all from you guys, our followers, so thanks heaps if you submitted one. Let's go beyond the propaganda. This is Reports on China. I'm Andy Boreham here in Shanghai. Let's get reporting. Okay, Jackson Hinkle, so good to see you here in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I'm going to ask, like I told you before, these questions are all from our followers. Now, I'm going to get these negative ones out of the way because you know you're a very controversial person and I kind of want to get behind it. So there were a lot of comments, like even from our followers saying, I'm unsubscribing because you're having Jackson on. People saying you're not a communist, even though you're a co-founder of the ACP, the American Communist Party. You're a CIA asset. So how do you respond to these kind of accusations?
You know, it's interesting to see what the bot networks, I guess, online come up with on a daily basis. But you just got to keep going and doing what you do. And I think that people eventually, over the years, they understand who you are as a commentator, as a YouTuber, as a journalist, whatever it may be. And whatever misconceptions they may have of you as a result of either propaganda or smear campaigns, they'll be exposed in due time. So I think there's been a lot of people I know who over the years have said negative things, and I don't take it personally.
And they come around, or?
Most of them, I think. Now, clearly not all of them, but a few of them. So that's how I usually deal with it. It's just kind of keep chugging along.
Give it time, like China. Yes. So is it from your style? Like I know you're very viral. I hate that word, but you sort of know how to rock people up. You do that on purpose, right? Yeah,
I think you have to be slightly provocative because when you're talking about subjects that people wouldn't normally otherwise care about, you do have to find a way to enter into the discourse, get people's attention and whatnot. But I think that also it's just these are very passionate issues for us to talk about, especially as an American. It's like our taxpayer dollars are going and funding all this stuff, whether it's regime change, color revolutions, wars, genocide. So I think that I get passionate as well. And I think it's ludicrous that there's so many people who lie about what's going on and try to cover up and are probably in many cases directly profiting about what's going on.
So I wonder, because so many of the comments were saying you're not a communist, yet you're a co-founder of the American Communist Party. Is there a lot of infighting with communism in the US? I mean, I know before you were part of CPUSA. Like, are they trying to say because you're part of another communist organization that is there some rivalry, or where does that come from?
I don't really know. It's the CPUSA, they're... I'm sure that there's like plenty of well-intentioned people that still are in the group. But it's unfortunate because you ask what is a communist, and I think most people would be able to answer that a communist should not be supporting the imperialist wars of the US. A communist should not be sowing division on cultural issues amongst the working class. But that's exactly what a lot of these organizations do. And that's what we try to avoid within our party. We try to focus on the meat and potato issues that affect American workers and affect the world. So I think that due to the simple fact that I refuse to kind of participate in the culture wars and participate in some of the Democratic Party support, any support for the Democratic Party, that there's a lot of animosity towards us for that.
Now, you mentioned being anti-imperialism, and that brings me to this question from Gorilla Gorky on X, and they asked, Jackson is an American patriot. How does he maintain patriotism to his country while in exile, while also being anti-imperialist?
Well, being in exile, I mean, that is difficult, you know, not being able to, I love America and I love so much about it, and I love my friends and family there, but it is, you know, it is very, I think, worthwhile. Someone said to me when I first moved outside of the US, they said, the interesting thing about living outside is you're going to appreciate America so much more when you're looking at it from the outside.
Do you?
Yes, I see a lot of things that I didn't see before, and you learn to miss things that you maybe took for granted. That's with anything, But as for being a patriot, I mean, it goes without saying that the wars that America wages, and whether it's that or whether it's BlackRock buying up all the land in the country, or Wall Street destroying the working class and the jobs in our country, it's patriotic to oppose that stuff. And it's patriotic to say that Americans shouldn't go die in the Middle East yet again. Americans shouldn't be dying as private contractors in Ukraine. And we definitely should not be participating in any escalatory measures against China, because that's going to go the worst of all,
I agree.
So I think, yes, we're patriots, but internationalists. And you really can't be a communist unless you are a patriot, because if you don't love your homeland, if you don't love the people there, if you don't seek to improve your country for your fellow Americans, then what do you want to do?
Yeah.
You want to burn it all down? It doesn't make any sense.
Nice. Okay, I want to move on to this very deep question from Mubi on YouTube. It has a lot to do with America's attitude or actions around the world, rather. He asked, what kind of punishment or atonement does your country deserve for the decades of crimes and terror afflicted with impunity around the globe? And do you believe America deserves a century of humiliation for its crimes?
Well, I don't think it's a matter of whether it deserves it or not. I think that's just where things are probably headed. I think things in America are going to get a lot worse before they get better. And maybe that's just what needs to happen. It's unfortunate, but I think the only way in which America can truly be rebuilt is if, through the ashes, something is rebuilt. It's like a phoenix, it has to come from the ashes.
Yeah.
And as for punishment and for all of its crimes, I mean, it goes without saying. I don't know what I can say here on YouTube, but of course, there needs to be punishment. I think that was one of the craziest moments of this Trump administration that everyone saw when they came in. They expected that Trump was going to have some sort of reciprocal action for all the things that were done unto him and his movement and
vengeance.
Vengeance. And then he gets in and he brings vengeance upon the poorest people in the world in Yemen and Gaza, but not the people who are his political enemies in the U.S.
Oh, confusing. Now, this is a question about misconceptions of China in your country, the US, from Trevor Johnson on X. He asks you, what do you think is the biggest misperception of China that American citizens hold?
I think they believe that China is not free. China is some dystopian state like Blade Runner or something like that. Well, maybe it does kind of look a little bit like...
the setting is,
it's not, Blade Runner has some depressing undertones to the cityscape, but this is much, much more beautiful. But no, I think that you look at America and, I mean, there's a question as to whether or not I can even go back to America right now just for my political views. I've got the FBI director's girlfriend tweeting about me, attacking me, trying to say that I'm a criminal or something, and all for what? Because I don't support these endless wars. Tucker Carlson is on the verge of being the criminal charge being levied against him over his opposition to the wars. So I think that we have to have a real understanding of what being free is. And in China, you of course have to understand that people here do not want to have any chance of any country coming in and trying to sow discord, whether it be through the more conventional methods or through social media and the internet. So that's why there's so much protection, because they don't want someone coming in and ruining the beauty that's been built here.
Yeah, I think it's so important to protect the information space. Probably China is the most sovereign place in the world, would you reckon? How about Russia in terms of information?
Russia is getting a lot better. Russia's getting a lot better, but if you speak to anyone in Russia, they'll tell you that, people who are like working on the internet or the VPNs or anything like that, they'll tell you, the Chinese have been, focused on this sort of stuff for a very long time. And even Iran is moving in that direction as well. After the riots in January of this year, they initially shut down the internet, and then they said, we're going to move to a sovereign internet. And North Korea is probably the most sovereign.
Actually, yeah, maybe. Hey, I got a question, because it's not just normal people that you really rile up. It's also people in positions. You just mentioned the FBI director's girlfriend tweeting at you. We heard a question from Yaki Lopez, who's the Consul General of Israel to southern China. And he asked me to ask you, why are you such an anti-Semitic terrorist supporter?
Why does his government genocide Palestinians?
Why do they play into the meme all the time?
It's, well, you get paid to do the job, I guess.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that surprising, but...
Do they all believe this stuff? Like, anyone who disagrees with anything they do is anti-Semitic, like, do they really believe that?
I don't know. It becomes difficult because you have so many Jewish Americans that stand so fiercely against what their government is doing. Like Max Blumenthal, Katie Halper, Dan Cohen, Norm Finkelstein, so many. So I think a lot of Americans, at least, have understood that there's literally an organization, I think it's called like American Jewish People Against Genocide. They have like whole groups dedicated to the idea, like, this will not be done in our name. But the Israelis live in their own bubble, I guess.
So, I've heard people saying that Israelis people who live in Israel, are quite, they are in that information bubble. They're quite brainwashed. Do they see much of what people are saying overseas?
Well, there's very strict censorship inside of Israel, so much so to the point that during the 12-day war with Iran, a lot of Israelis, I don't think, understood that their most precious bases in the world that their government claimed were impenetrable were actually hit pretty hard by Iran. So if you're unaware of basic facts like that...
it's hard to be objective.
Especially about decades and decades of propaganda, you know. But I think that now, given what's going on, I think it's kind of impossible to hide the truth. They're going to bunkers every 60 minutes or so. It's a different reality there now.
Okay, another question from YouTube. Why are most US people afraid of and hate communism and socialism, even though there are many beautiful aspects?
I think there's just, again, been so much propaganda against it for a very long time. And the reason for that is because it is the greatest threat to the people that run America. It's the greatest threat to Wall Street. It's the greatest threat to BlackRock and to all of these dynastic families which have had generational wealth passed down and generational power accumulated as a result of that. And it is a big threat to them. So if you, for example, can get American workers to say, no, actually, organizing within our own rights and our own interests is actually antithetical to what we want, then you've achieved your goal. If you're any of these companies, if you're Goldman Sachs, if you're JP Morgan Chase. And so that is where a lot of the pressure has been put insofar as ideological movements in our history books from the early years of our education, cartoons, TV shows, movies, whatever it is. And it's been quite successful.
Communism and socialism and Marxism and words like that, they're kind of seen as bad or dirty words in the West. Like, how can we get around that as someone who's a co-founder of a communist party? Have you thought of changing the terminology or anything like that? Because it is so loaded and so propagandized, those terms.
There's no need to change the terminology or anything because, we are Marxists, we are communists, but the most successful effort to, I think, solely the good name of Marxism has come from these, ostensibly, they call themselves left-wing organizations in America, who in many scenarios have been funded by the likes of George Soros. And they've not changed the terminology of Marxism, but they've changed the actual subject of what they're pursuing.
The meaning, yeah.
Yeah, they say that communism is when you have blue hair and drink, like iced caramel lattes and you don't know what your gender is or something. So that's not Marxism. And I think when you actually are able to communicate with Americans about what you believe in as a Orthodox Marxist, they're very shocked and they say, "Oh, I didn't know. I thought Marxism was this, that, or the other. And when they understand what we're actually fighting for is the American Communist Party, they're sympathetic.
Yeah, I think I chatted with George Galloway last time, and we kind of agreed that most people do have socialist or communist tendencies. They just don't realize it. So I guess it's about education. This question from David on YouTube: why don't the American people rise up and overthrow the government? And can the United States change without an armed revolution?
Well, it can change. It can get a lot worse. No, I mean, America is one of the most, it claims to be the strongest military power on the face of the earth. Is it? I don't know. There's
Christians.
Fighter jets getting shot out of the sky right now somewhere in this world that have a U.S. flag on them. But you look at America, and a revolution can't happen with just 10 people that are loosely organized. To change anything, you need good discipline, you need good organization, and you need a message that resonates with the people. And with that, I think you can overcome anything, even in America.
Is it obvious to the ordinary American that the two major political parties are corrupted to the hilt and not representing them? And why is there not a popular third party form for the ordinary American?
Oh, it is disgusting.
The uniparty.
It's disgusting. And I don't know. I think that anytime you even have someone who tries to build a third party or run as a third party candidate, like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., look at him. He went from running as I believe a Democrat and then independent, and then now he's in Trump's administration, and he's just going along to get along, essentially. So
they're just sucked into the orbit.
Yeah.
Just consumed by the two major parties.
Yeah. I think that we have a lot of people in the country that are fundamentally corruptible, and people like whoever you want to list, either President Xi or the late Ali Khamenei in Iran. It's like these were people who could not be corrupted. And that's what really distinguishes everything. There's plenty of people in Iran that I'm sure could be corrupted.
Everywhere. Even
anywhere,
in China.
Anywhere. China, yeah, we've seen it. I mean, they go after people that are corrupt here, and I think that's amazing. But in America, we don't have any sort of tradition of imprisoning people who are corrupt, holding people accountable, even if that means a death sentence for treason, which is on the books in America. But it's nothing like that is ever actually implemented. And when it's not, you have instances like with our U.S. Congress where they're all being paid off by Ukraine or paid off by another country, and it's a big problem. So I think everyone's just gotten a little too comfortable in America.
But does the average person know how corrupt both parties are? Because I know, they set it up as a big game. It's like, which one are you voting for, Democrat or Republican? And people really feel like they've made a choice to change the world. But as we know, it's just it's the same thing. Like, do they actually realize that? And maybe when the ordinary American realizes and it goes over a tipping point, that's when there'll be a revolution, or?
I think most people know. Congress only has about 18% approval. Trump right now has a 54% approval, which is no different than when Biden was in office. I mean, it was very low approval when he was in office. And the overwhelming majority of Americans, I think it's about 60 or so %, they do want a third party. But then when election time comes around, the media is everywhere and everyone's talking, and it's like, whose side are you on,
Yeah. Of the two.
Yeah, and it's like, well, maybe I'm actually not on either side. Maybe I'm not going to participate in this game. And then you get called, aiding and abetting the enemy if you do that. If you don't participate, then you're aiding the other side. And it's like, no sides. No, I'm not a part of this.
I'm not in it. Okay, Michael Markle on YouTube asked if you think China will be a better leader in the new multipolar world order than the USA was. But I just have to say, USA wasn't a leader of a multipolar world.
I think that I don't think China necessarily views itself as
wants to be.
Wants to be the leader of a multipolar world, or of a world, whether it's bipolar, multipolar, or hegemonic. They don't. That's not what they want. So, China is what it is, and it has a lot of people, power, capital, and influence. And I think that's a very good thing. I think that China, you have to always judge things as they come. And as of right now today, we can look at China and say that it is a shining example of what a country, a civilization should be. That doesn't mean that we should copy it, or any country should copy it, but we definitely need to learn from China.
Yeah, China's really big. A lot of people overseas are scared China's going to export its system or force its system on others. But China's very aware that its system is suited to Chinese society, Chinese culture, Chinese history. So even people who watch our channels will ask this kind of question. And I'm not being rude to Michael, but will China be a better leader in the new multipolar world when China constantly says they don't want to be a leader. They want to be part of a fair world. So I think it's interesting. Last question today, Jackson. This comes from Arcane Eclectic. He or she would like to know how you believe the US military-industrial complex, this is a huge one, is going to rebuild its weapon arsenals without access to Chinese rare earth minerals.
Oh, well, it's a very good question. I don't know. Right now, I mean, the U.S. is still able to get refined rare earth minerals, as I understand, but China does control 98% of refining capabilities for rare earth. So the U.S. can get rare earth from anywhere, practically. They can get it from Kazakhstan, for example. They can get it from Russia, but
it's the refining that China does.
Yeah, so it's we'll have to see. I don't know. That's the whole idea, right? With the crazies in DC who want a war with China, it's insane. But the actual question is, how would that even manifest? How would you be able to do something like that? I guess they might say, well, there will be a buildup of weapons before we get into that war. But we've seen how well the buildup of weapons went for Ukraine and for some of the Gulf countries right now. We're living in a new era, and the U.S. is not prepared for it. Our ships are falling apart, our planes are falling out of the sky, and we don't know anything about drones or air defense. So I don't think that the U.S. should be pursuing war just because it's morally the correct stance to take and it benefits the American people and it's going to be less pain for people around the world. I mean, you look at America, we're just losing everything. And that's all we've done since World War II. And even then it was the Red Army, who had the victory. So maybe war just isn't America's thing. That's what I think.
Definitely interesting times. Jackson Hinkle, so good to chat with you today, and come back anytime.
Thank you so much.
That's it for today, you guys. But as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts. So do let me know down below. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help the channel. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.